Great.
Okay, awesome. We are recording and people are starting to come in. Alrighty, let me share my screen. And we will get started. Okay. Alrighty. The age-old question, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, maybe good evening for some of you. We're super excited to have you here during this webinar with Rimat's founder, Mate Rimat. And we will just give maybe a minute or two for everyone to dial in and settle in, and we'll be with you in a minute. And if you are already here, maybe if you can share where you are dialing in from, that could be an interesting thing to know. You can do that via the question window. And we have Black Forest, Germany, Zurich, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Someone's dialing in from London, UK, Zagreb, of course, Colombia, India. Good evening. Detroit, Manchester, Puerto Rico, and Cambodia. Wow. So that must be really late in Cambodia. Indonesia, same thing. Oh my God. More UK, Paris, Florida, Singapore, Stuttgart, Germany, Bucharest, Italy, of course, lots more people from Croatia. Wonderful. Fantastic. Brazil, Georgia, Budapest. I think it's one of the most international webinars I've been in this year. Amazing. Mexico, Toronto, Ghana. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So let's get started. I just wanted to quickly introduce this conversation that we're having today. My name is Hannah Adeyema. I am a director of MIT Bootcamps. At MIT Bootcamps, we deliver transformational educational experiences for entrepreneurs all over the world. And specifically this June, we are having a fantastic program working together with Algebra University to deliver an innovation and leadership bootcamp in Zagreb, Croatia. And as a lead up to this bootcamp, I'm super excited to introduce this opportunity, this webinar. We have an amazing, insightful opportunity to dive into a conversation with someone that I find truly exceptional. Imagine being 19 and transforming a classic car, into an electric powerhouse vehicle, and doing it not in the sort of the state-of-the-art lab or production facility, but in your garage. And that's what we have today, inspired by Nikola Tesla, Mate. He was able to transform his BMW into a record-breaking vehicle that set 5 World Guinness records, as far as I understand. And that's how his story as an entrepreneur and founder of Rimac has begun. Under Mate's leadership, the Rimac Automobili began with the Concept 1, the first truly electric supercar that exceeded the performance of all its predecessors. And in 2021, we have Rimac Nevera. And as far as I understand, this was something that was completely redesigned as a hypercar that quickly broke a lot of records. But that's not all. In addition to all of these outstanding technological innovations, Mate was also able to grow Rimac as a company. And we were just chatting about it. He grew it from his garage. And, you know, what good startup story does not start with a garage? We love these stories. So he grew it from his garage and Rimat's developed into several entities, from what I understand, and we'll hear more from Mate. But Rimac Group now designs, develops, and distributes battery and power drivetrains to leading car manufacturers. And there's also collaboration with Bugatti Rimac that combines EV hypercar technology with Bugatti's automotive excellence. So all of that has grown from a garage into a 200 million state-of-the-art global headquarters that are going to come into existence in the next couple of years. I know the phase one is already completed. And if we can move to the next slide, here we actually do have an opportunity in June to visit the headquarters as part of the MIT Bootcamp Trek that will happen in Pula, Rovinj, and Zagreb. So if this webinar is not enough, this is my quick plug for this amazing educational experience. And you will find in the chat, we'll share some links if you are interested. So with all of that behind us, I would like to welcome Mate. We will be talking for about 30 minutes. And if you have questions, you can start sending them here through the Q&A box, and we will make sure to address as many of them as possible. So hopefully about 20 to 25 minutes of good discussion with the founder of Rimac. Welcome, Mate.
Hi, hello, everyone. At this point in time, usually people tell them, say about their past, right? And with jobs they used to do before. Well, I was in high school before this. This is still my first job. You know, we were just discussing before how we were doing things here and how that might be different from other people in different locations. And I actually don't know. I just did things the way I thought they should be done without having any previous experience. So some things we did right, some things maybe not so much, but I hope it will be useful for you. So I'll try to keep the presentation part of the session we have short, just to give background, and then use the time for any questions you might have. So I'll share the screen, just one moment. Okay, so building cars is something, you know, a dream come true for many boys, maybe also for lots of girls, but of course, boys love cars, and I, for some reason, loved cars since I was born, without even knowing why. So this was me when I was 3 years old. So I was born in Bosnia in 1988. And my family had nothing to do with cars, nobody in my environment. But you see that I didn't even go to the toilet without my cars. And then about this time, maybe a few months before this image, my parents moved to Germany because the war started in Yugoslavia. So, but trying to rationalize today why I love cars so much, I feel it's because cars kind of combine all of human disciplines. On one side, it's art because it has to be beautiful, and not just beautiful, but also it has to smell good. It has to sound good. It has to feel good when you push a button, when you close the door. Like, you know, when you close the door and it rattles and feels like it will fall apart, it's not a great user experience. So there's few products that are like that. And then on the other side, all kinds of human sciences, from material sciences, aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, electromagnetics, electronics, hardware, software, everything is in the car. And yeah, trying to rationalize it today, this is why I believe I love cars, just because all of human disciplines are in there. And, you know, sometimes we have these big events with cars, and one of them is so-called supercar owner circle, where owners of such cars drive through cities. And one of the cities is Zagreb. And when these cars pass through the city stops. And, you know, there's thousands of people on the streets. There's kids, you know, little kids with eyes like this, trying to see the cars, trying to make a picture or touch the cars or sit in a car. And I just don't know of any other product in the world that can provoke so much emotion like a car. So I cycled through everything, like wanting to be a Formula One race driver, a designer, an engineer. And in the end, I'm just happy that I'm involved with cars today in a way that I wouldn't have imagined possible. So 10 years after we moved to Germany, my parents moved to Croatia. And it was a very difficult time for me because the school system in Croatia and in Germany was very different. And I wasn't speaking the language well. So it was a bit hard for me to get used to the school system here. And I wasn't a great student. But I was always curious and always tried to do stuff on my own, whether it's drawing cars or doing electronic stuff. And I was in a high school called mechatronics. So that's like a combination of electronics and mechanics. And as a graduation project, you have to build something. So this here in the pictures, this was my graduation project, like keyboard on your or a replacement for mouse and keyboard on your hand. And I didn't think anything specific with it, but my professor thought it was interesting. So he sent me to a local competition for electronics, which I didn't really want to participate in. But because of my professor, I was like, okay, I'll go. And I didn't have any hopes of getting any kind of award or anything like that. But I was actually the best, to a big surprise of everyone, including myself. And then they sent me to the national level, where I thought I have even less chances, but then I won as well. And then they sent me around the world to represent Croatia. So this was me in Korea when I was 17 years old. Was the first time I was in an airplane in my life. I was representing Croatia at these competitions, and especially against international competition, I thought I don't have any chances, but I won awards all around the world. And that was the great kick in the butt for me to get to learn to do stuff and to get some confidence. And here, this guy next to me is my professor. He, without him, I wouldn't have done any of what I'm doing now. So as soon as I was 18 years old, I bought the 1984 BMW 3 Series, which was 4 years older than myself, because this was the easiest way to start racing. You buy an old BMW, weld the differential and do stupid things with it like this. This is what's called drifting. So this was, let's say, the easiest way to start racing because I wanted to race all my life. And when I bought this old BMW, that's what I did. Have a bunch of old tires and start racing. But the engine didn't last very long. The engine blew up. And what you would usually do would be replacing the engine with another combustion engine. But looking at the hole under the bonnet, I was like, okay, now I'm going to invest a lot of my time into this project, into this old rusty car. So why just replace a combustion engine? Why not do something a bit different? And being from Croatia, I read a lot about this guy, Nikola Tesla, who was also born in Croatia. And he has invented the electric motor that we use today, the alternating current electric motor. One of its first iterations is here right in front of him. And I was like, okay, I'm now going to spend so much effort into this car. Let's do something interesting. And this was at the time, you have to understand, it's easy to think about it now, like, okay, it makes sense to make electric cars. But back then, so this was like 2008, 2009, it was insanity. Like all my friends were car guys and they were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why would you build an electric car? Are you crazy? My parents were telling me I should just finish college and find a job. But I thought, okay, on one side, it's going to be my hobby to build this car in my garage. But on the other side, I think it's going to be a business because I think electric cars will become a thing. And again, today it's obvious that electric cars became a thing, but back then it was not obvious at all. So that's what I did. I went into my garage, took some old parts from junkyards, like a forklift electric motor, and converted the BMW into an electric car. Painted it green. And this was at the time when people didn't see any electric cars on the road. I came with electric car on racetracks and claiming I could be faster than combustion engine cars. And that's what I did. I started racing and everybody was like, what the hell is this guy doing? Coming with a washing machine on the racetrack. And I had lots of issues at the beginning. battery fires, motor fires, the car would burn or break down or whatever. But the great thing about racing is the stopwatch doesn't lie. So you go to a track and you know exactly how good you are. And every weekend I was coming back with a better and better car because I was improving it. And this was here in 2010, where I won for the first time against combustion engine car, which was the first time in history that the electric car in the same category won against combustion engine car. Then Tesla Motors, the American company, came out with a Roadster claiming it was the fastest electric car in the world, which I have proven was not the case. And I was using the car as a commuter, was going to university with it during the week. And then on the weekends, I was breaking records and racing. So in 2011, I broke 5 Guinness and FIA world records for the fastest accelerating electric car. So it was a great way to learn. I learned a ton, and especially the racing, you know, you break stuff on the racetrack, you figure out how you can be better, and then over the week, you work on the car, and on the weekend, you race again. And then I started my company in 2009. It was called VST Conversions. So this is the this is the formula for speed. Velocity is distance through time, right? And what I was offering was basically kits to convert combustion engine cars to electric. Basically, the idea was I show you with my BMW what can be done. And then when you want the same, you bring me your car and I throw out the combustion engine and make it electric. And I did that for a few cars. And then I realized quickly, okay, this doesn't make any sense. So this is really bad technically and commercially. And if you want to take the advantage of electric powertrains, you have to do it properly, meaning build a car around the electric powertrain. And I was just a guy in a garage in Croatia. I was 20 years old, had no idea what I was doing, but I had 2 heroes. Christian von Koenigsegg here on the left side from Sweden, who built his own car company, and Horatio Pagani from Italy here on the right side. So these 2 guys built their own car companies in the last 2 decades. And they were pretty much the only people who have done so. Before now, this big onslaught of electric car startups that started in the last 10, 15 years after Tesla's success. But before that, you know, the auto industry is basically considered as the industry with the highest entry barriers. It's very difficult to start making cars. But I was like, if those 2 guys did it, why couldn't I? But I was just a guy in a garage in Croatia who wanted to make the world's fastest electric car. And, you know, this was at the time when electric cars were something like this, you know, ugly, boring, slow, everything opposite of what I wanted to do. I wanted to show that electric cars can be fun and exciting and sexy and so on. And Croatia doesn't have a lot to do with cars. You might know this car, the Yugo, which was the only, let's say, homegrown car out of ex-Yugoslavia, but that's actually in what is today Serbia. Croatia itself never produced cars. And many of you have probably been in Croatia. It's a beautiful, wonderful country. Beautiful for its nature, for its seaside, but not really for industry, especially not for automotive industry. So when you Google automotive industry in Europe, there's the picture you get. So the stars are car factories, the dots are supplier factories. And Croatia is pretty much the only country in Europe without significant automotive industry. So starting with what electric cars were at that time and with what Croatia was when it comes to automotive industry, wasn't really the right place to start what I wanted to do. But I was very stubborn and wanted to show not only that you can make electric cars fun and exciting, but actually that you can do that in Croatia. So just to put things in perspective, Croatia has less than 4 million inhabitants, around 70 billion GDP, and just Volkswagen has 250 billion revenue. So just one car company has 4 times the revenue of all of Croatia's GDP. So the auto industry is really an industry of giants, and there are many, many companies that are bigger than all of Croatia. So finding the right investors was the biggest issue for me for the first 7-8 years of the company. So through coincidence, I met a guy who works for the royal family in the Middle East. And he said, look, they're always interested about interesting opportunities. Why don't you put something together? They might be interested. So at that time, I just met Adriano, my designer, and we were starting to work on our first car, the Concept 1. But at that time, it was just sketches. Adriano was working for General Motors in Germany as a designer, and I was a college student. But we put together a little brochure with sketches, pictures, specifications, like what the car should be in terms of top speed, acceleration. But it was all just ideas. There was nothing real. He took it to his next trip to the Middle East and said, look, they want to buy 2 cars. I told him, great, but there is no cars. There's no company. There's nothing. It's just ideas. And then soon he called me and said, how much do you need? And I built a business plan, of course, having no idea what I was doing. And as I always say, if I spent one day as an intern in a car company, I would have known how impossible it is to build your own car. But luckily I didn't. So I built a ridiculous business plan, thinking that like 4 million euros would be enough to build a car. That was my business plan, like 4 million euros. And soon I had a term sheet. This is what is in front of me. And in Croatia at that time, I couldn't find a lawyer who understands venture capital terms. Sitting the event with, I was like, doesn't sound like it. And I was just 20 years old. I didn't really know anything about it. So I had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way, including legal stuff. So soon we had an agreement. I signed a term sheet and I had 2 milestones. One was to show the car at the Frankfurt Auto Show, which was in September 2011. So that was like 9 months after this picture. And then I had to deliver 2 cars to the royal family. So in Croatia, I didn't have anybody to hire. There was no automotive industry in this level. So I could only hire a few guys that I knew were good with their hands. So people who were smart and handy with their hands. So I had to convince their wives to give up their jobs to work for a 20-year-old guy with some Arab investors who wants to make an electric supercar. So this is how it looked like in the beginning. We had no idea what we were doing, as I said, but we were super, motivated to deliver. We had 6 months to build a car for the first time in our lives. And this is what we did. 3 guys that I hired, and we started. But the investor didn't hold his promise. He didn't pay the money that he was supposed to. So day one, we were bankrupt. So basically, the guys I just convinced to hire couldn't pay their salaries, couldn't pay suppliers. Suppliers were calling me. But we, in a huge pile of debt, managed to finish the first car, and hoping that there will be other investors who will join us. When we showed the car at the Frankfurt Auto Show, and this was the Frankfurt Auto Show, it looked all beautiful. Everyone was coming and like, what the hell are these Croatian guys doing? But at the same time, we were completely broke. So this is all of my suppliers or employees that are threatening, especially suppliers that we didn't pay, or electricity or rent and stuff like that. So yeah, so it was really tough from the beginning. So what now? And the car wasn't the real car, really. It was just a show car. And it would take years until we really bring that to a level where we can start selling them and get some revenue in. So the only thing that came to my mind was like, okay, we now know a little bit about cars and electric cars. I learned a lot by building my BMW. So maybe we can offer this as a service and start bringing revenues in immediately. So that's what we did. We took on crazy projects that nobody else would touch in terms of technical challenge, timing, and pricing. So this was one of the first where we had to develop and make a car for a Spanish car company within 4 months. Total insanity. Total insanity. If somebody tells you in the industry, can you develop and build a car in 4 months? You would say, no way. It's like making a big dinner in 3 minutes. It's impossible. But we took on such projects because we just had no other choice. And the amount of money for which we did it was absolutely ridiculous. But in 4 months, by working like this, staying in the company for days, not going home, we actually built that car. And then we did a whole bunch of other stuff. Like this was a car for Siemens, for a German company. Or going a bit full circle, Christian Koenigsegg was at that time developing a hybrid. So we did the battery for the first Koenigsegg hybrid car. Then we started to work for bigger car companies like Renault. Then for some Chinese companies, we developed a full car. Then for Jaguar, we made an electric E-type, which was then used on the royal wedding. Even boats. Yeah, and the first car, the Concept One, was then built. So we actually made the real cars, which were done. We started to produce and deliver to customers. And you might know these guys, Top Gear and Richard Hammond, who had a little oopsie with our car. In the middle of another crisis of the company, he had a huge accident and almost died. And this was almost the end of our company. So we had lots of issues like that, where you had factory fires and batteries burning and exploding and things being very public and the media questioning whether our batteries are dangerous and stuff like that. But yeah, long story short, from this garage, we then grew the team slowly and then fast to be now over 2,000 people. And yeah, going from this little garage, from one guy in 2009, we are now over 2,000 people. And in the meantime, we have collected over $1 billion of funding. So the big step for us was when Porsche invested 2018, then Hyundai, Kia invested 2019, Porsche invested several more times. And then in 2022, we had a €500 million investment round. And now we are 3 companies. Bugatti Rimac, making the world's most exciting sports cars. Rimac Tech is the technology business where we are developing and making high-end powertrain, battery, and so on for many car companies. And then P3 is a robotaxi business where we are under the radar in stealth mode for the last 4 years, developing self-driving car ecosystem that we will unveil in June of this year. So currently nothing is public, but we will make it public in a few months. So Bugatti Rimac, so I had this incredible opportunity to take over Bugatti from Volkswagen. And through Bugatti, which is 115 years old, we have a very strong old brand, over 100 years heritage. And it's a luxury niche, is growing. It can grow a lot, but being luxury, it cannot grow indefinitely, right? It has to stay within a certain level of exclusivity. Bugatti Rimac is already profitable, but we want to bring the profitability even higher. On the other side, Rimac Tech is in a scale-up phase. It's scaling up a lot, building factories and so on. Huge addressable market, huge growth, but it's not profitable yet. And then P3 is a very early stage business. So this is how the structure looks like now. Until the Bugatti deal, there was just this one company, the same limited liability creation company that I founded in 2009. But then because of the Bugatti deal, we split the company up in the hypercar business and the tech business. So all the shareholders have shares in the group. And then the group has 100% of shares in the technology business and 55% of the shares in the hypercar business. I'm the largest shareholder in the group with 23%, and then all the other shareholders. So just about Bugatti Rimac a bit. So here, this was the event where we have announced the new company, combination of Bugatti and Rimac, a few years, what is it now, 2.5 years ago in the beautiful city of Dubrovnik in Croatia. And with me here are Oliver Blume, CEO of Porsche, now also CEO of Volkswagen. Lutz Meschke, the CFO of Porsche, where we had this great opportunity to take over the brand and bringing together basically the incredible heritage and brand of Bugatti with the technology and entrepreneurship of Rimac. And now the goal is to build the world's leading hypercar company, meaning the most exciting cars, art on wheels, most profitable car company in the world, percentage-wise. And we want to bend physics and bring groundbreaking technology to the market. On one side, we have the headquarters and R&D in Croatia. On the other side, the beautiful old location of Bugatti in France, where Bugattis are being made for over 100 years. So what we want to do is to build stunning products to inspire. So it's not just, let's say, toys for rich guys, but it's also, you know, to inspire of what is possible, bringing beautiful products to the market. And, you know, even like for children, like, you know, I couldn't afford these cars years ago, but I had them on the walls of my childhood room. And that's, you know, one of the reasons why I'm so crazy about cars today. Yeah, exciting and emotional new technology. So on one side, art, but it has also to bring the technology forward. Bend physics, meaning do stuff that others considered impossible. And the beauty of Bugatti is we can bring the past and future together with the incredible history of the brand. And how to do it? We need to deliver, deliver, deliver. When we say we'll do something to actually execute, that's really the most important part of a business: execution, execution, execution. Despite cars being very expensive, you have to be very cost effective in all you do. Products to enjoy, but also an asset. In our case, the value of the products is usually increasing. And we want to bring the perfection even further. So we think we are the pinnacle of the auto industry, but we want to even further increase that pinnacle. Then we have the incredible history with the Bugatti family, with the craftsmanship and history behind it. This car, for example, the Profile, was the most expensive new car ever auctioned. It was 10 million euros. Or the Mistral. Let's say this was my first Bugatti. The first, that was my idea, with 99 cars, 5 million euros each, sold out immediately. So as soon as we started to talk to customers, it was immediately sold out. This is the Bolide. 40 cars, 4 million euros, also sold out. And customization is a very big part of the business. So we make every customer wish come true, be it golden interior or whatever the customer wants, we make it happen. Of course, for a price. Then on the Remat side, we are really about bending physics. So pushing the limits in terms of technology and performance, and also showcasing of what we can do with our technology, with our batteries, with our powertrains, that we then also sell to other car companies. One thing I'm really proud of is that the whole car was developed completely in-house, which is remarkable considering that there was no automotive experience in the country before we did that. So, and doing that properly, like really from material testing, component testing, full-scale car crash tests. Unfortunately, it's all part of the game. We have to crash a lot of cars to be able to sell even those low volume numbers. A lot is done virtually, but then you need to do a lot of physically crash testing, wind tunnel, and so on. And you can see the factory, and I think some of you will have the opportunity to see the factory where the cars are built. So 2,000 horsepower, less than 2 seconds, 0 to 100. And really remarkable product, not just from performance, but also whoever has tried a car loved the performance and the whole package. Last year, we broke 27 world records with this car for the fastest electric car.
Okay, now we're going to have a rolling race over the half mile from 50 miles an hour.
Here you can just see an example. So remember when people were laughing at electric cars and slow and ugly and boring, and now the Nevera is faster than the Formula 1 car.
There we go. Oh, wow. Wow.
So this would have been very
That was a
hard
lot
to
of speed
imagine
very quickly.
just a few years ago, that an electric car can be faster than all road cars, but also than a Formula 1 car. So there's lots of tests of the car online that you can have a look for yourself. I won't bother you with that now, but there are some pretty funny scenes like this one where the difference is just so huge between combustion cars and the Nevera now that that it's almost comical. Yeah, then Rimac Tech. So in the cars, we show what we can do, but then in the technology business, we then develop different kinds of products like batteries and powertrains that we then sell to many other car companies. And that's something that also personally now, you know, I just started a company to make cars, but to keep the lights on at some moment, as you saw, we started to work for other car companies. And now this also makes me proud because I'm such a car guy. I love all of these other brands as well. And you know that to think that all of these big car companies are coming to Croatia, to some, you know, company that didn't exist really just a few years ago, to get the newest in tech for high performance electric vehicles, that's pretty remarkable. Plus, you know, we really shape the future together with them and know what's going to happen in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So yeah, that makes me quite proud. So big customers like BMW and Mercedes and Hyundai, Porsche, and so on, but also medium ones like Aston Martin, Ferrari, and so on. We are also going big into energy storage. The more renewable energy there is in the grid, the more storage of energy you need, because renewable energy is volatile, meaning the sun isn't always shining, the wind isn't always blowing, so you need to store energy. So we are going big into that. And just last thing, so we are building a beautiful new campus just outside of Zagreb. So the idea was to build a campus that's completely immersed in nature, just outside of the capital city of Zagreb. For 2,000 employees, there's even a 15th century castle on the location. This R&D and production, but one thing you notice, there's no fences. It's the only automotive R&D facility without fences, because we want people like the public to participate, and we want this to be the best place to work and to have a good time. Yeah, to be creative and have as good of a time as an employee or a visitor or a guest as possible. And where we make these beautiful products. And also we want to grow our own food there, have a kindergarten for kids, restaurants, all that stuff. And when we started to do this, we were around 400 employees, and I want to build this campus for everybody. Told I was a maniac, like you 400 employees and you want to build this. Now build it. It's small actually for what we need, and we are actually building the next one. Yeah, so this is an actual picture. It's almost complete. We have started to move in. So yeah, and we are already fighting for every millimeter inside of it, despite being the biggest factory in Croatia. Okay, so I'm a bit over time, a few minutes, but I hope this gave you a good insight into how we came to where we are. So yeah, now we have some time for Q&A.
Thank you, Mate. Really had goosebumps when in the video when your car overtook Formula One car. It really is kind of mind-blowing for anybody who's trying to kind of learn about entrepreneurship, innovation, and understand it. This is an amazing story of really coming from nothing to something that is at the pinnacle of its industry and technological achievement. So there's a lot of questions. I'd like to focus. A lot of them are focused on technology and your company, but just wanted to take one question going back in time to how it all got started from Dolores Briseño. She's asking, trying to understand, probably all of us trying to understand, how can it be, and like, can a normal mortal have this capability to do this over again? So she's asking about whether everything that you've learned initially for accomplishing this was due to your high school in mechatronics. Very natural question to ask.
Yeah, so when I started, electric cars weren't really a thing, and my education was like, how would I say, I was just a high school guy, right? I started to build my electric car in the garage when I was still in a fourth grade, like in the last year of high school, just before I started university. And I tried to find everything I could about the area where I wanted to go in, so electric cars and batteries and so on. At that time, there was very little literature. And it's very difficult to remember how different of a world it was just 15 years ago. So one of the things I remember quite well was when I tried to find Christian Koenigsegg, so this big hero of mine, on a Geneva auto show. I was just looking for the most serious looking guy on the stand of Koenigsegg. I didn't know how he looks like. And you know, today you have like hundreds of interviews of him, and of course you know how it looks like, but 15 years ago there wasn't. So even on YouTube and stuff, you didn't have all of these educational materials like you have now. So there was a small community of guys who were converting their cars into electric cars in the US. And some of them were writing very detailed what they were doing. One of them, I think his name was John Wayland. He had the nickname of like Plasma Boy Racer. And I read everything he ever wrote, everything. And then I was doing stuff in my garage at the same time. And quickly I figured out I'm at the level where I learn more in my garage on actually working on the car than I could learn from anybody else on the internet or any literature I could find before. So I would say, you know, do your homework and like whatever area you're in. And now there is a lot of more information available than there was 15 years ago. First, you know, exploit that to the maximum, like, you know, learn from other people's learnings and mistakes. That's really step number one. I didn't go to a fancy school or a fancy university or whatever. I learned everything basically either from the internet at the very beginning or later by doing it on my own. And actually the funny thing is, if you really go into that and spend all of your time in it, and you know, remember when I was 20 years old, I didn't have a family, didn't have no obligations, no children, nothing, you know, I could really day and night just focus on that. And soon I became one of the top experts in the world of electric race cars by just reading everything I could and by doing stuff in my own garage. Could learn more. So yeah, information you can.
Sorry,
Can you still hear me?
Yes, sorry, there's a bit of a delay in the connection, but I can hear you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And so another question from Alan Jan. He's asking, you know, people usually associate obviously hypercars with Italy, Europe. How did you convince early investors that Rimac will be based in Croatia?
Oh, they didn't want to.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do this in Croatia. I actually had many situations. Going back, I wouldn't investors at the beginning. They were like, "What? Croatia? What the hell is that word?" And they didn't have trust in legal system. When I didn't have the luxury of choosing investors, it was like either you move out of the country and get our money, or we don't invest. And I was crazy enough to say, "Okay, I'll figure it out. Don't worry, I'll stay in Croatia," because I wanted to do it here, which is total insanity, and I wouldn't recommend doing the same. I made my life difficult from the investor's perspective, but also from just there is no talent here, no supply chain, no no customers, no market, no investors, no government support at the beginning, especially. So yeah, it wasn't. I'm happy because I built the company here, but it was just making my life so much more difficult because of that. So yeah, but it is what it is.
Well, it seems like taking the easy path has not been a usual strategy in most of your decisions, right? Taking what fit, you know, the decisions that fit you has actually played out to be a good strategy. Alexander, on that note, Alexander Guzman, he's a mechanical engineering grad from the University of Puerto Rico. His dream is to build super hypercars. And is, you know, that's his life's mission. He asks about what is Rimac, what other things Rimac technology is doing to hire talent and to attract it. Could you please share insight into how the company plans to attract and retain top talent, especially considering factors like compensation and benefits? And he mentioned that he himself could not receive an offer, accept an offer from Remat that he received recently.
Yeah, our advantage is that we have been somewhat limited by the market locally. So initially, I couldn't afford to hire people internationally. So we were hiring only locals that were talented but not experienced, zero experience, because they never worked in the auto industry. And then as the company grew, we could afford to hire people from around the world. And that was also an advantage of being in such a small country, because we were international from day one. So we have 50 nationalities right now from all around the world, and everything is in English. And, you know, we don't care if somebody comes from Italy or Brazil or here next door. We really don't care. And the company has been like that from the beginning, pretty much. And it's super international, and we don't have problems finding good talent. So people just want to join us because they know we do crazy stuff and interesting stuff. I'm sorry that this example didn't work out, but try again. You know, there is colleagues coming from all around the world to be part of the story. And, you know, we always say we want to make this the best possible part of your, you know, professional journey, and whatever comes next, that you remember, you know, happily about the time in Croatia where you were maybe working on super exciting stuff, which was challenging, but in the end, you know, that's the stuff you remember. So yeah, just, you know, keep trying. There's many opportunities in the company.
Amazing. And talking about crazy stuff, I know a lot of it is actually in the technology that you're developing that's quite cutting edge. Can you share some of your vision? There's a lot of questions. I kind of realize that we won't be able to. It's always good to have overwhelming interest in what you're saying, but we won't be able to get to a lot of the questions. But in general, there's a lot of questions around sort of your opinion about, you know, the future of how this industry is going to develop. If you're a young professional trying to get into the industry, what your recommendation would be, or in general, any opinions on fuel, battery, and other developments in other areas of cars?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm always very straightforward. And this industry, like any other industry, so all of the industries go through hype cycles, right? And the hype cycle of the automotive industry happened in the last 10 years, where incredible amounts of money went into or out of money. And that era of easy money and raising lots of money for wacky ideas in this industry is over. That's over. And, you know, we are one of the companies that has substance. So we have a long-term future. And what I would like to say is with Bugatti, you know, we need to make sure that the next 100 years of Bugatti are also going to have a future. So that's what we are about. But you have the big companies that are going to be around for a long time, both the car companies like Mercedes, BMW, whatever, but also the supplier industry that's there. I would be very careful joining some kind of early stage, not well-funded companies in its industry, because many have failed, and there will be more that will fail. So I think the industry is going through a period of spreading the, let's say, reality from too ambitious or too crazy speculation, and is going to focus more on fundamentals and on results of companies. And in terms of technologies, electrification is already nothing new anymore. So people still talk about electrification like it's this, you know, big thing coming and changing the world. For me, being 15 years in industry, like just making cars electric is like, okay, it's just business as usual. Hydrogen, there's some developments. I am personally not a big fan of hydrogen. It's just because the economics of it and efficiency, how much energy you're losing in the whole cycle of creating and storing and then using hydrogen. But what I'm quite passionate about personally is the new ways of using cars. So not owning the car, but using it as a service and not driving the vehicles, but being driven by an AI system. And not necessarily just the technical part of it, but like it completely changes economics. And especially, for example, attention of people or the time of people that you now have, instead of using 5% of your brain to drive around, you now have unlocked all of this additional time for people that people are going to use in different ways, either to relax, work, sleep, watch a movie, consume. It opens so many opportunities. Then even, you know, from stuff like what happens to airports and parking garages in airports once people don't park their cars there anymore, but just use autonomous cars and so on. So that really opens up huge opportunities. And I think that's exciting for newcomers, because in the stuff that everybody's doing for 100 years, it's difficult to get a foothold. But stuff that's new for everyone, and that perhaps the traditional industry doesn't even see coming, that's where your opportunity is.
Thank you. Fantastic, of course, good insight. I think if somebody's kind of at the beginning of the career, obviously they're interested in finding the right way. And one of the things with listening to this conversation is maybe not to listen to so much advice, but on the other hand, you also get great advice here. So lots of other questions about the technology, but I don't know if we should go into this, but I know this, you know, the big hype right now is and opportunities are in the AI and sort of this trying to understand if there is a future in the AI guided vehicles. And I have several questions here, including from Ted Ero. You know, would Rimac Group be interested in exploring collaboration opportunities to integrate this AI experiences, autonomous driving experiences? And I think that's something that's coming out, right, in June. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. We are going to show a mobility ecosystem. So, how to phrase this? So basically, you know, like this is an iPhone, and you can be a billionaire and you can be a 15-year-old schoolgirl and have the same phone. And the billionaire cannot have a better phone than a 15-year-old schoolgirl. So no matter how much money you have, the most important item in your life, or let's say the most important item you use on a daily basis, cannot get better than a schoolgirl has. So, you know, people say the difference between rich and poor is getting bigger and so on. Depends how you look at it, you know. Not today, for the first time in history, rich and poor have the same access to information. You know, you can listen to Harvard professors, to MIT professors, to the smartest people in the world, no matter where you are in the world, right? That level of information has never been available before to everyone. An opportunity, I would say. But still, when it comes to cars, the billionaire is driving in his Rolls Royce that's clean. The driver is not drunk or distracted. It's his music playing. It's his temperature. You know, the car smells like he wants and so on. While the schoolgirl might need to sit in a dirty Uber with a distracted driver who might be drunk, who might not follow the road, who might drive too fast, listen to music that she doesn't like, and so on. So what we want to do is, self-driving is just one element of the whole story. What we want to do is that the schoolgirl or anybody has a better experience also on the road than the billionaire. And in order to make that happen, there's lots of stuff that needs to work around it. And we have actually announced already that we are working together with Israeli company Mobileye on the self-driving stuff. So I'm not sure which kind of collaboration is being offered here, but currently we work with Mobileye on self-driving.
Amazing. Switching a little bit more into kind of the future, again, into the future and understanding how you're working at Rimac today to arrive at this future. I was wondering if you could share maybe some of, because we have you in person, kind of some of the details of what your day-to-day, kind of your day in life looks like. And similarly, at Rimac, how does it look like when you take an idea into a product?
Well, maybe the second part first, like that's actually what keeps me going. Like after 15 years of doing this, you know, the company started, you know, I have an idea in my head, it's just here. This is how I think a car should look like, or a product. And then it takes the work and sweat and tears of hundreds of people and a lot of money to get that from here to an actual product on the road. And then you sit in it and like, wow, and I'm surrounded by stuff that didn't exist before. Every part, I know why it exists and exactly why it is the way it is, why it's not another way, what it could have been, what we have done great, what we could have done better, where we have screwed up, what can we do better for the next time, and so on. So that whole process is really such an interesting interplay of people and management and technical stuff and production and supply chains and stuff like that. It's just incredibly exciting to go through that, you know, through such a process of creation. And it's so human. It's so many people involved. It's the designers, the engineers, finance people, manufacturing people. You need to bring everyone together, rally them for the same, you know, kind of vision, and resolve conflicts, and come with the right request at the right time, and so on. And that's really what keeps me going. It's because when you see some car or some product that's already old, for me at least, you know, like I had this idea 5 years ago, and then it was like 5 years until we get there. And what we are working on now is something that you will see in 4, 5, 6 years, depending on the product. So that's a really fascinating process, creating a product. And it's just so many people from so many backgrounds and disciplines that need to work together to make it happen. And the better you get the people aligned, the better, you know, they like each other. The more they spend time in the same room, the more they go for a beer after work, the better the product will be. That's also a fascinating part, where the relationships between the people and the way the people work together, in the end, it's visible in the product. It's crazy when you think about it. How my day looks like. So usually, unfortunately, that's the ugly part of growing a large company. So I was alone at the beginning, right? And then the first guys joined, and we didn't need meetings and emails and stuff. We were just there in the same room. Now, when you have 2,000 people and shareholders and customers and all of that, it's very, very different. So I usually have 10 hours of meetings back to back without any room in between. And usually when my, I don't know, 9 o'clock meeting starts, I'm already late because the previous meeting didn't finish on time. And your whole day is like that, trying to catch up during the day and give the people the attention they need, and focus, like spend time with the people that need you for whatever reason, and be there for them. And it's quite difficult to decide between, okay, this is just a waste of time of a meeting, or like, okay, we should have done it. Okay, it brought some benefit, but allocating time and knowing where to allocate, and not just giving it to the ones that scream the loudest, that's quite difficult. And then at the same time, you get hundreds of emails, other communication channels, documents you need to read. That's usually happening then when everybody else is home, or during the weekends. What really screws up is when you then need to go on a trip, or you have a customer, and the whole day goes for that, and then everything falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's something we all hit at some point. Wonderful. So we're up, and considering the value of your time, we don't want to hold you beyond this. Maybe one last kind of thought about, Nikola Tesla is your inspiration. What is if you had to encapsulate in one phrase the flavor of Croatian innovation and what's happening at Rimac and kind of the story of your life, is there anything that comes to mind?
We are creating it as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Nikola Tesla, to be successful, he had to go to the US. He didn't really do anything here. So yeah, we want to build. Well, there is now some really fantastic companies, and the great thing is we are holding together. But yeah, that's also a nice thing. We can create like if everything goes right with the company, in a few years we will be a significant part of Croatia's GDP. And at the same time, we are also creating the culture of the tech industry here and so on. So yeah, it's also nice to be able to kind of have a real impact on the country.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. We wish you a lot of success on this very unimaginable journey. I don't know, maybe we can share some of these questions with your team, because there's so much interest in what you're doing, and people are just trying to say thank you. Lots of personal notes to you. It was fantastic. We really very much appreciate it. Thank you, Mate.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And for everyone else, if there's another chance to get closer to Rimac, is if you want to join us on the MIT Bootcamp track in Croatia, and that's gonna be this June 4th to 7th. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll be in touch later with another amazing speaker with TBD yet in our multiple series of webinars. Thanks.